It's not uncommon for people to start wondering why, as years pass, those around them seem to drift away. Perhaps old friends call less often, family members visit less frequently than before, or invitations to social events gradually stop coming. The feeling of being left behind can cause deep discomfort and even painful experiences. However, the truth is there are perfectly valid reasons for this phenomenon. What's particularly encouraging is that many of these reasons are within a person's control. This article will explore 6 key factors that explain why people begin to distance themselves from an individual in their later years. These aren't just random coincidences or unfortunate circumstances. We're talking about consistent behavioral patterns, ingrained perspectives, and daily habits that can push others away, often without the person even realizing it. However, once these aspects are understood and recognized, it becomes possible to initiate changes that will not only strengthen existing relationships but also help maintain valuable interpersonal connections for many years to come. Reason 1: Neglecting personal growth. One fundamental reason people start to drift away in later life is when an individual stops their intellectual, emotional, or social development. A person who continuously improves, acquires new knowledge, and actively engages with the world remains attractive and approachable for communication. However, when an individual stops seeking new experiences, resists learning, or rejects the need to adapt to changing realities, it becomes significantly harder to maintain contact and find common ground with them. Consider this aspect. When you converse with someone who is curious and open, constantly enriching their perspective, the dialogue becomes lively and engaging. Conversely, if a person focuses solely on past events, rejects attempts to learn anything new, or ignores innovative concepts, such communication inevitably becomes monotonous and even exhausting. Those around them might not disappear instantly, but over time, they will reduce the frequency of calls and visits, gradually drifting away. Personal growth isn't limited to just reading books or picking up new hobbies. It involves maintaining an active mind, asking questions, and showing a genuine interest in the world around you. When an individual stops doing this, others inevitably notice the change. A person who remains receptive to new perspectives, open to constructive discussions, and demonstrates a desire for knowledge generates an attractive energy that others gravitate towards. However, when an individual becomes insular, this energy gradually diminishes, and with it, some interpersonal connections weaken. Imagine 2 elderly men. One remains active, he shows interest in innovative technologies, watches educational documentaries, actively participates in book discussions, and readily learns from the younger generation. The other dismissively waves away anything new, stating, "I don't understand any of that. Things were better in my day." From an observer's perspective, with whom would people find it more pleasant to interact? Who would be invited to gatherings more often, called more frequently, and maintain a wider circle of connections? An individual doesn't need to master every new trend or technology. However, an open mind, vibrant curiosity, and a willingness for continuous growth will fundamentally change how others react to them. If a person continues to develop, people will want to keep them in their lives. If they stop growing, others may feel they are moving forward while the person remains stagnant, which will inevitably lead to distancing. It's encouraging to realize that it's never too late to initiate change. Whether it's acquiring a new skill, reading material outside your comfort zone, or simply actively asking questions during conversations, a steady pursuit of growth will help maintain valuable connections. People are invariably drawn to individuals who are moving forward, not those who stop developing and get stuck in place. Reason 2: Excessive negativity or systematic complaints. Few things can push people away as quickly as a relentless stream of negativity. If an individual frequently expresses dissatisfaction with their health, criticizes modern youth, the current government, or constantly reminisces about a golden age of the past, they may be unconsciously alienating those around them. No one enjoys being around someone who consistently focuses on the worst aspects of any situation. While a person might perceive this not as negativity but as a sincere expression of their thoughts, such communication can be extremely draining for listeners. Just consider how you feel when spending time with someone who always finds a reason for criticism and discontent, no matter the topic. Perhaps it's a close relative who constantly talks about their physical ailments, or a friend who shares only bad news, or someone who complains regardless of the subject. Over time, such conversations begin to deplete the listener's emotional resources. And imperceptibly, those around them start calling less, visiting less, and ultimately, gradually drift away. This doesn't mean an individual should completely avoid discussing difficulties. Everyone faces hardships, and the ability to share problems with trusted individuals is a vital part of emotional well-being. The key difference lies in maintaining balance. If conversations predominantly revolve around disappointments, suffering, regrets, or complaints, it can lead even those who genuinely care about the individual to hesitate when trying to make contact. People by nature seek to spend time with those who inspire them, who bring them joy, and who can see the bright side of life, even when circumstances are far from ideal. This doesn't require feigned positivity. However, a shift in mindset towards gratitude, curiosity, and even humor can significantly impact how an individual is perceived by others. When a person chooses to focus on pleasant moments, shows interest in others' lives, and shares stories that evoke laughter rather than disappointment, people feel lighter and more comfortable in their presence. This is what encourages them to want to spend more time with such a person. Imagine two elderly men at a family gathering. One continuously complains about his back pain, traffic jams, and how no one respects elders anymore. The other shares a funny story, asks about everyone present, and finds something positive in current events. In an observer's opinion, who would people want to sit next to? Who do you think will receive more invitations to future events? The answer is obvious. Energy is contagious, and people gravitate towards those who bring light and joy, not those who cast a shadow of gloom. Therefore, if an individual notices that others are drifting away, they should take a moment to reflect on the energy they bring to their conversations. Are they someone who adds warmth, curiosity, and fosters connections? Or do they tend to focus exclusively on negative aspects? A slight shift in approach to discussing life can have a huge impact on how others react. If a person continues to bring positivity into the world, people will always want to be near them. Reason 3. Inability to maintain relationships. Relationships don't exist in a vacuum. Friendships, family ties, and social connections all require consistent effort, and one of the main reasons people start to drift away in later life is the feeling that their relationships have become one-sided. If an individual is accustomed to expecting others to initiate contact, plan get-togethers, or show interest in them first, they may be unconsciously pushing others away. Consider the relationships in your own life. When was the last time you reached out first? When did you last call a friend to see how they were doing, invite someone to spend time together, or send a thoughtful message? Many people mistakenly believe that if someone truly cares, they will always make the effort. But in reality, relationships fade if they are not actively nurtured. If people feel that they are the only ones putting in the effort, they will eventually stop. This isn't about grand gestures. It's about showing people that they matter to you. A simple text, a quick call, or an invitation for coffee can make a huge difference. It lets people know their presence in your life is valued. When someone only hears from you when you need something, or when they are the only one making an effort, over time they may start to feel the relationship isn't worth maintaining. Imagine two elderly men. One regularly checks in with friends and family, asks how they are doing, and shows genuine interest in their lives. The other rarely reaches out, calling only when he needs a favor or has something to complain about. In an observer's opinion, with whom would people want to stay connected? The answer is obvious. People want to feel valued, not taken for granted. And here's what's important: it's never too late to mend broken connections. If you realize you've been disengaged, start small. A brief phone call, a kind message, or even simply remembering small details about someone's life and bringing them up in your next conversation can show you care. Consistency is key. You don't have to be in constant contact, but when people know you're thinking of them, they'll want to remain in your life. So if you've been wondering why some people seem to be drifting away, take a moment to ask yourself, have I been putting in the effort, or have I been waiting for others to do all the work? The more effort you invest in your relationships, the more they will flourish. And when people know they are important to you, they will always want to be a part of your life. Reason 4. Refusal to adapt to change. Life is a continuous flow of change, and people who remain connected, active, and socially engaged are often those who embrace these transformations rather than resisting them. One of the main reasons people start to drift away in later life is that an individual becomes overly rigid in their views, rejecting new ideas, resisting technology, or refusing to understand how the world is evolving. When others feel they cannot have meaningful conversations with such a person because they categorically dismiss their perspective, they may gradually disappear from their life. Consider how much the world has changed today compared to 20 or 30 years ago. The way people communicate has shifted, social norms have evolved, and technology has become an integral part of daily life. Younger generations actively use texting, video calls, and social media to stay connected. Many older individuals struggle with these changes, not because they are incapable of adapting, but because they prefer not to. They declare, "I don't understand any of this," or "things were better in my day." While nostalgia is a natural feeling, refusing to embrace new ways of thinking can make it difficult for people to connect with such an individual. And it's not just about technology. It's about openness to different viewpoints. The way people view relationships, careers, and even daily life has undergone significant changes. If someone constantly criticizes the younger generation, rejects new ideas, or refuses to acknowledge that times have changed, it creates a deep divide. People, especially family members and younger friends, may start to feel that conversations with such an individual are more like an argument than an exchange of ideas. This doesn't mean you have to agree with everything or suddenly change who you are. It simply means remaining curious, asking questions instead of dismissing everything. Be willing to learn, even if it's just the basics of how younger people communicate. If an individual refuses to adapt, people may feel they are speaking different languages. And eventually, they may stop trying to communicate altogether. Imagine two elderly men with their grandchildren. One dismisses their interests, refuses to try new things, and constantly talks about how things used to be better. The other listens with curiosity, asks about their lives, and even tries to engage with what they care about. In an observer's opinion, with whom will the younger generation naturally want to spend time? Change can be difficult, but it's inevitable. You don't need to master every new trend or agree with every new viewpoint, but when you show a willingness to understand, people will keep you in their lives. Reason 5. Excessive dependence on others. Relationships thrive when there's a balance between the parties. But when one person constantly takes without giving anything back, whether emotionally, financially, or physically, it can create significant strain. As we age, it's natural to need help from time to time. However, if an individual becomes overly dependent on others without considering their needs, it can push them away. People want to help those they care about, but when that help starts to feel like an obligation rather than a free choice, they may begin to distance themselves. Consider the people in your own life. Do you find yourself relying on them for things you used to handle yourself? Perhaps it's asking for favors too often, expecting family to always take care of everything, or leaning on others for emotional support without offering the same in return. While it's important to have loved ones you can depend on, relationships should never be one-sided. When people feel they are constantly giving without receiving gratitude or effort in return, they may start to pull back. And this isn't just about physical or financial support. It's also about emotional energy. If every conversation revolves solely around your difficulties, frustrations, or needs, without acknowledging what the other person is going through, they may start to drift away. People want to feel valued in relationships, not just needed. This doesn't mean you should never ask for help. But the key is to balance it with independence. Even small acts of self-sufficiency, handling what you can on your own, expressing gratitude, and finding ways to give back play a huge role in maintaining strong relationships. People are much more willing to help those who also contribute, even if it's in a small way. Imagine two elderly men. One constantly asks his family for help but rarely expresses gratitude, never offers anything in return, and assumes they will always be there. The other acknowledges the help he receives, tries to do what he can for himself, and finds ways to contribute, whether through advice, wisdom, or simply emotional support. In an observer's opinion, with whom will people want to continue interacting? If you notice people drifting away, take a step back and ask yourself, am I giving as much as I'm taking? Do I express appreciation for what others do? Am I making an effort to handle what I can on my own? Even small changes, like expressing gratitude, finding ways to help others, or simply asking about another person's needs, can make a big difference in keeping relationships close. Because when people feel valued and needed, they will always want to be a part of your life. Reason 6. Holding grudges and inability to forgive. Few things push people away faster than unresolved resentments. As we age, it's easy to accumulate frustrations, old conflicts, past betrayals, and moments when we felt wronged. But when we hold on to these feelings and refuse to let them go, it not only harms us but also pushes others away. People don't want to be around someone who holds grudges, constantly brings up old wounds, or refuses to forgive. Over time, this energy makes relationships heavy, and eventually, people may choose to leave rather than continue carrying that burden. Think about your own relationships. Are there people you've distanced yourself from because you felt they wronged you? Do you constantly replay old arguments in your head? Do you feel bitterness towards family members or old friends who made mistakes? It's natural to feel hurt. But when that hurt turns into a constant wall between you and others, it becomes a problem. Sometimes people don't even understand why you've pulled away. In other cases, they understand but stop trying to mend things because they feel that no matter what they do, you won't let go of the grudge. And here's the truth: holding a grudge punishes not the other person but you. It keeps you trapped in the past while everyone else moves forward. And when people feel that every conversation with you might turn into a reminder of old grievances, they may stop reaching out altogether. No one wants to be constantly reminded of past mistakes. And when they feel they'll never be fully forgiven, they may choose to step back. Imagine two elderly men with their families. One has learned to let go of minor conflicts, choosing to focus on the present and the time spent with loved ones. The other still holds onto arguments from years ago, bringing them up in conversations and making sure everyone knows he hasn't forgotten anything. With whom, in your opinion, will people want to spend time? Forgiveness isn't pretending nothing happened. It's freeing yourself from carrying that burden. It's choosing peace over resentment, valuing relationships above past mistakes. If you've been holding on to anger or disappointment, ask yourself, is this helping me or pushing people away? Because ultimately, choosing to forgive and move forward not only helps keep others in your life, but also helps you find more peace in your own. Concluding thoughts. To sum up, take a moment to reflect on these 6 reasons. Do any of them resonate with you? If so, don't view this as criticism. View it as an opportunity. Because the truth is, loneliness in old age is not inevitable. Many of the things that push people away can be changed. And as you start to make small adjustments, whether it's reaching out more often, letting go of grudges, or choosing to remain open, you may find that people begin to return to your life. Attractiveness isn't just about appearance, and relationships aren't just about time. They depend on the energy you bring, how you make others feel, and the effort you put into staying connected. The good news is that none of these qualities diminish with age. If you continue to show interest in others, stay engaged with life, and approach relationships with kindness and understanding, you will always have people who want to be around you. So instead of wondering why people leave, ask yourself, what can I do to make them want to stay? Because the power to build and maintain strong relationships is still in your hands. It's never too late to reconnect, reach out, and create a life filled with meaningful relationships. And the more effort you put into keeping the right people close, the richer your later years will be.